Every Spider-Man Ever presents Amazing Spider-Man issue 40. To catch up quickly, the Green Goblin knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and Peter knows that the Green Goblin is Norman Osborn, father of his classmate. Aunt May will die if she gets any kind of shock, and Peter is captured by the Green Goblin, tied to a chair at a secret base on the waterfront, and that's where we pick up. As Peter struggles with the bonds that bind him, he mentions Harry Osborn, which strikes a nerve with the unmasked Norman. When Norman tells Peter not to mention Harry again, Peter does the opposite, taunting Norman by claiming that he cares very little about his son. It leads to Norman monologuing about his past. He says that his wife and Harry's mother died when Harry was young, and that Norman gave everything to becoming successful, to provide for young Harry. This included betraying Professor Strom, the creator of robots from a few issues back, and ultimately led to him being estranged from Harry himself. He was now too busy trying to be successful and had forgotten the reason why. Then, in Strom's notes, he found details for a formula. When Norman created it, it exploded on him, and he spent weeks in the hospital. The doctors were able to save his life, but couldn't reach the damage done deep in his brain. Damage that Norman felt made him smarter and stronger, but damage that also made him cruel and more dismissive of Harry. Once recovered, he became the Green Goblin. Green because it was his favourite colour, and went after Spider-Man as a show of force to get the gangs in line. Elsewhere, Aunt May is telling Anna Watson how worried she is that her Peter hasn't come home. It's just not like him. She asks Anna to call the Daily Bugle, but J. Jonah Jameson has no good answers and only anger for Anna. So instead, Anna calls May's doctor, keen to keep May calm. And elsewhere once more, Betty Brant is in the train station, ready to come back to New York to face Peter and Ned, but haunted by images of Spider-Man. I'm back with Spider-Man once more, and Green Goblin's monologue has turned to the times that he fought against Spider-Man. He uses a device to cast pictures of their fight, to prove that the Green Goblin was never defeated. It was always luck that Spider-Man won. He'd never really beaten the Goblin. And so it's with that arrogance that, just as Peter is getting free of his bonds, the Green Goblin frees him instead, and tells him to put his Spider-Man costume on. He wants to have a real fight, to show that the Green Goblin will always defeat Spider-Man, even at his full strength. When they fight, it's intense and in close quarters, with the Green Goblin tossing bombs and Spidey deflecting them with webbing. Eventually, Spider-Man is stunned, but when the Goblin flies close, Spider-Man knocks him from his glider and destroys it, and we learn that he was only pretending to be stunned. The Green Goblin returns the favour though, also pretending to be knocked down, only to whip a broken electrical cable at our hero. Eventually, Spider-Man's agility gives him the advantage, and he knocks the Green Goblin down, realising too late that the Goblin is falling into electricity and chemicals. When Spidey checks to see if the Goblin is dead, he instead finds a Norman who doesn't know who Spider-Man is, and who still thinks that Harry is in high school. He's seemingly forgotten the last few years. A fire is raging now, and as the fire brigade come to the rescue, Peter changes Norman back to his civilian identity, burning the Goblin suit in the fire and carries Norman outside. He claims that Norman helped him defeat the Green Goblin, and then he swings away. At home, Peter finds the doctor's car waiting outside, and finds that May has been sedated. The doctor scolds Peter for being so reckless, for only thinking of himself before he leaves. But Aunt May is more worried about Peter than herself. He's warm from his battle in the fire, but Aunt May assumes that it's the flu, and so she puts him up in bed and gives him the broth and the care so that he can recover. And elsewhere, also recovering in bed, is Norman, with Harry by his side. He can't remember some of his past, but he's keen to make the future a good one. For both of them. Thanks for watching, and while you decide what to watch next, here's a fun fact about this issue. The inking in this issue is credited to Mickey Demio, which was actually a pseudonym for Mike Esposito. But why was he using a pseudonym? Well, that was the name that he used when he worked on horror comics back in the 50s, when it wasn't great to be working on horror comics and he didn't want to attach his real name to it.